Welcome to this presentation of miide. In this session I will try to explain the main features of the editor, basic configurations, and the keyboard bindings to edit your code. At the bottom of the video you should be able to see my keystrokes so you can confirm the key bindings that I use to access any features of the editor. The first thing we need to know is how to have access to the help documentation. Type Alt and the question mark. This will open a prompt at the bottom where you can type the name of any specific manual, or if you don't know the name, type tab. This will start the search and autocomplete similar to the terminal. The available help sections show up and you can type the full name or start with the beginning of a name. With a tab it will autocomplete. Options. I will open options. As you can see, the window splits horizontally and now we have the help file displayed at the bottom of the window. Now you can navigate the document with your arrow keys, the page tab and page down. Go back to your code at any moment by typing the F key, F5, function 5 key to move to the previous window. If you want to close the help window, just type F4. You might need to refer to the manual pages and wiki at GitHub for detailed information on that this video will not provide you, like the full information on key bindings and configuration options available. Now we will begin with the menu located on the miide icon at the top. The menu gives you access to the main configuration of miide, and the first item at the list is the global settings. The first setting that you will want to change could be the color scheme of your selection. Other things that you might want to change is the color of the cursor. For example, you can choose any RGB color or type of legal name color, and that will change the color of your cursor. You may also check if your terminal supports the cursor shapes here by selecting, for example, IBIN. This will change the language translation from US to Spanish. Now we can save our changes and we will see the change in the colors of the editor, and our cursor now is an IBIN as we can see it here. When I change from insert mode to override mode by typing the insert key, we can also see that the cursor changes in shape to an underline. Now, like I mentioned previously, not all terminals support this functionality. So for example, if I change in this terminal, that is a different one, to IBIN, you will see that the cursor did not change. But not only that, you will also notice that if I try to change to the insert mode, what will happen is that the screen will fill with weird characters. So which means that this kind of terminal does not support the change in cursor type, and then you will have to simply remove it. You will remain having a change in color in most terminals, so when you are on override it will look as red. The key bindings dialog allows you to change the predefined bindings for many of the commands. If you locate the cursor on the check field, you can type a combination to see if it is available or not. For example, I will try Ctrl Q. And I receive a message that the key is taken by the quit all function. I will now try with Ctrl O, and it tells me that it's free. So I could go to the cut line command and click on it and then type Ctrl O. That will bind the Ctrl O key to the cut line now, to the cut line command now, and I can save. If I go to my editor now and I type Ctrl O, Now it cut a line like as expected and it's working. This next menu option is the plugin manager. The plugin manager has three sections. The language section allows me to view all the available translations in the repository, and you may select one translation and install it. The coding plugin allows you to browse through the current available plugins that developers had published. You may select one and install it or remove it. Language plugins help enhance your coding experience for a particular language. The Applications plugin shows plugins that implement new functionalities to the editor or are general-purpose applications like the case of a Snippets plugin. The other two menus will be detailed later. Now we will go to the toolbar, which has a small collection of very common actions that you might need. The first icon opens a file viewer, showing you the files on your current path. Navigate the tree with the mouse clicks, for example. Okay. You can open with a double click on any new tab. You may also use the arrow keys at any time, page up, page down. You can use the end or beginning to go to any place, go into a directory or exit. The right arrow opens the file in the current active view, and if you actually used again enter, it will open it on a new one. One thing that I have not mentioned before is that all the dialogues that we have seen can be closed using three methods. Their cancel button when they have the dialog one has one, typing the escape key, like in this case, for example, I open it, type the escape key, or by clicking outside their drawing area into the editor. The next icon we have is the save icon. The next two help you to split a window vertically or horizontally. Depending on your settings, it will open the new window empty or with opened a current buffer. I will click on this and we have the split window vertical. This is very useful to open the same buffer on a split window because we can work on one section of the code at the top and then go to the bottom of the other one and have two sections at the same time. Now I will open in this window the styling sheets. And for the purposes also of an example, I will split again this window and open again a different file. For example, this one. Now we can navigate among them with the F5 keys that move me to the previous, on F6 that moves us to the next. If you want to close any window at any time, you can do it typing F4 like we did with the help files. This will close the current window that you are located at, and the other ones will remain open. Now I will move to my original code, and let's pretend that I had finished using my cascading style sheets file, and I want to close it. I could use F6 and F4, or I can remain in my current window and just type Shift F4, which closes the opposite window. The next icon is the search dialog. Here you can type any string or a regular expression and begin a search by typing enter or clicking on search. To go next, you can see the key bindings that you can use. You can use, for example, enter key or F6 to go to the next one. Or you can use the backspace or the F5 to go back. I chose the enter and backspace because they are close together in many keyboards and you don't have to go further from after you had typed enter to begin your search. You will also notice that when we are in the search mode, the editor will try to keep the text centered when we found text that is very close to the bottom or edge of the editor, and you can always have some margin that will allow you to always have some margin to look around your code. Next, we have the search and replace icon. The search and replace functionality is similar to the previous one with a different additional capacity to replace the text that we find with regular expressions. For example, let's say that I want to find dates in the ISO format. As I have found already, I made a mistake here, and I want to replace what I found by an expression that changes it to a Latin date format. So after I have done my search and typed my regular expression, it will find the matches, and when I type yes to replace, you will see that it has changed the order of the different elements of the date. And the remaining one right now to mention is the close button, which will close the current window that is open or the full tab if we already have closed all the views that are available on that tab. Now we will enter into the editor area. The ruler on the left here with the line numbers can be hidden by using the right click on it or the middle click in case your editor does not support the right click. For example, as I mentioned earlier, some terminals when you right click, instead of allowing you to click into the terminal, they grab the event and you cannot use the right click on them. The navigation keys are the same as in any other editor. You have the arrow keys, the normal home and different ones. Copy-paste keys are the same as traditional editors where you can select text and type Ctrl-C to copy, Ctrl-V to paste, or Ctrl-X to cut a line or part of the text. It's here, for example. One particular functionality of the copy-paste in miide is the ability to copy and paste in different terminals, and when they are in the same server. Sometimes I open two terminals to the same server, and at some point I need to copy a piece of text from one of terminal into the other. Normally I would have to use the mouse shift and then begin selecting text and use the shift insert on the other side just to pass the text from one place to another. And we all know what happens when we do that. We have extra spaces, ruler lines with the numbers that appear there. If the line is too long, I have to add some new lines to it to be able to have it in view and pass it in pieces from one side to the other. With miide, you can select the text as we have done previously with the other keys, and go to the other terminal and paste it with a normal Ctrl-V. So I can copy very long lines like this one, copy, then go to the other editor, place myself where I want to paste, and type paste. And I have all the lines pasted from one terminal to the other. Just remember that this has to be done on the same server and with the same user. It doesn't work if you are on different servers. Now your clipboard is also persistent. Even if you close the one terminal and you don't save your work and you open it again or a file, you still have the keyboard to type on it. Another enhancement of miide is the cursor positioning and margins on the edges of the editor. For example, if we are close to very long lines, when you reach the when you're beginning to reach the end of the edge of the editor, you will see that the line has a margin on the right. That allows us to see better the surrounding text or code that we are looking at on the edges. Other times when you come from a very long line into a short line, you will find yourself with missing text on the left. miide centers again the editor in all the way to the left, so you can keep looking at the code that is around you. And now we finally arrive to the bottom of the status line, where you will see information about the current file and more available actions. We have the file name on the left, the current cursor position, the line number it's located, the total amount of lines, and the column position where the cursor is found in this moment. The next icon allows us to see the current buffer selections. You can change any of the settings if you are not working with a non-standard file. Let's say that you always work with type indentation, Unix new lines, and you have to open some other code and that code is coded with the space indentation and DOS new lines. You may just adjust the editor configurations for the buffer and then save the configuration for that particular file, or you could save it for the current session only. For example, I would say if I will be opening it many times over again, I could save it so I don't have to change it every time that I open the file. Or simply save it for the current session as I mentioned. The other possibility is that your default global configurations are not a good fit for your coding language you are editing. For example, Lua code files will not work well with the smart indent, and you may want to use a space indentation for this group of files. Then, after you select all your options, you should select Save as Default Settings for all, and here it will appear the language that you had opened. It will say, for example, Lua files. So every time that you've opened a new Lua file, it will open with those settings. Now it is important to know that the settings will not reformat the file when it's opened. It will just apply those rules once you begin editing the file. So if you choose a space indentation but the file you open has tabs, it will not automatically change them to spaces. Again, maybe someone else's code and he or she codes that way. Next we have a shortcut for local settings, like if we want to precisely change indentation to tabs or to spaces. The only difference with this option is that if you actually change the indentation to space or tabs, here it does re-indents all the buffer. Okay. Next, we have the detected file type that you have of your buffer that you opened. If the detection rules fail to select the correct type for your language, you can always change it here by selecting the correct one. Next, we have the Unix or DOS new lines, that it only toggles that option. And finally, file encoding. miide will try to detect the file encoding of the file when you have opened it, and not always will do it right. Let's see it here. For example, I try to open this Latin file, and you will see that it opened it with the ISO 88591 encoding, which is the encoding for Latin 1. If this file had been opened with the UTF-8 encoding, it would look like this. with the wrong characters decoded. If that is the case, that the editor could not detect correctly your file encoding, you can select the correct one and change it so the characters show properly. Now, be aware that as long as you do not introduce characters that cannot be mapped to the current selected encoder, the file will remain in its original encoding, so I can write anything here, even when it's in UTF-8. But as long as I don't introduce any characters that cannot map into the Latin 1 character set, it will be saved as a Latin 1 file. If I enter a UTF character that it cannot be mapped into this current encoding, then the editor will force it to be saved as an UTF-8 file now to avoid losing the information. This finishes the use of the editor. Now I will introduce you to some of the cool features that I have introduced into miide. If you get a key for a cloud service, you can type the key in this dialog, add your personal password and a passphrase for encryption of your data. The service will add these additional functionalities to the editor once this data has been typed in here into this dialog. The first service that you will have is a copy-paste between the editors in different servers. To copy-paste to the cloud, you use the selection like we have done before. But instead of using the control keys, you will use Alt X, C, or V. So if I type Alt C, it will copy the clipboard on the cloud. And here it will tell you that it has been uploaded to the cloud. In this case, the selection is copied, encrypted with your passphrase, and sent to a server on the internet where it is stored. Your key, your passphrase is not sent with your file. So on the second server, you need to type your same key, password, and passphrase to be able to retrieve your clipboard and decrypt it. I will simulate this by pasting here on the same place with Alt V. If I type Control V, you will see that we have a different data being pasted, because this is from a different buffer and this one comes from the cloud. The second service is a transfer of a full single file from one server to another inside the editor. The principle is exactly the same. Let's say, for example, that I want to transfer this file to the cloud. For that, I can click here on this icon to upload the whole file. The file has been uploaded to the cloud, as it says here. I can close this one now and type the download. This will open a new tab and it will pull from the cloud the whole file completely here. To send and receive the file, use the icons on the toolbar or the keys Alt-Shift, Alt-T, file uploaded, or Alt-D to insert the file in a new tab. Again, your file is copied, encrypted with your passphrase and sent to a server on the internet where it is stored. But it cannot be decrypted over there because your passphrase is not located there. This third service allows you to pack, encrypt, and upload your entire config directory. You have access to it by typing Alt+, and you can download or upload your settings together with all your customizations, plugins, hacks to the plugins, syntax highlightings and colors, and have always your own IDE. Well, With this final option, you can always have your own configurations and hacks with you and say this is miide. Thank you for your interest on miide. Have a good day and happy coding.